So at the risk of my channel becoming a Watch Mojo top 10 type video, then I'm going to be making another top 10 video. But this time on my top 10 favorite Cartoon Network shows from the late 90s to early 2000s. Number one being Time Squad. Time Squad premiered back in 2001, which I would have been about 9 at the time. And it's one of my favorite shows I remember as a kid, primarily because it incorporated a lot of history. And I realize now that I haven't mentioned a lot that I like history, but I like history. This is probably where that started. The show kind of got me into wanting to learn more about history, getting to see all these different historical figures on screen, and it may have been a comedy show, but it got me more into history. So, Time Squad. My number 2 one is Grim and Evil, which is the predecessor to Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy and Evil Con Carne. I believe that was the name of his show. Both characters or both shows were made by MacLeod. And researching to make this video, I came across Grim and Evil was one of the shows that was up on what was called the Big Pick. It went up against shows like Whatever Happened to Robot Jones and Long Hair and Double Dome, which I didn't realize. I'm sure somewhere in the deep recesses of my mind, I do remember watching and seeing commercials for the Big Pick on TV. I'm sure I probably did ask my parents if I could go online and vote. Back in the days when you would ask your parents before you go online. And my number 3 is the Life and Times of Juniper Lee. I think probably the reason I like this, it looks so closely related to American Dragon Take Long. It's kind of like the female version of it. And me looking at it now, I do like the theme. It was a show with a female lead, and it was cool. And also, I probably liked it because back whenever it was out in 2005, I would have been 13. And I think maybe in the show she was probably supposed to be maybe 12 or 13. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe that had something to do with it too. I kind of related to the characters somehow, maybe. I'm not sure. But I know I love the intro too. I love the intro. For me putting it on my top 10 list, I will say I probably don't remember many episodes considering it was so long ago. Remember the show regardless, so, and it probably has something to do with the intro. Number 4 on the list is Class of 3000. This was a very short-lived Cartoon Network show because of the controversy of apparently Eric Andre stealing the show idea, supposedly. I don't know whatever came of that, but I do know I loved the show. I think I'm sure I would have been about middle school at this time, and I was in band, and you know, I loved it for the music, for the characters and all. In reality, it's probably because I was a kid and I just like seeing the cartoons move around, I don't know. But looking at it now, I can definitely say I still would like the show. Number 5, I know there's a certain other YouTuber, I'm not going to name any names, and a certain other podcast that doesn't like this show. I'm going to say number 5 is Whatever Happened to Robot Jones. Truth be told, it's probably mostly for the intro. Probably why it's halfway down the list. I don't know, I kind of do like that. I really do like the art style. And it was another short-lived Cartoon Network show that only had, what, maybe 2 seasons, I think. And I will say, this was one of those shows that went up against Grim and Evil in the Big Pick, and it lost, but it would eventually get its own show, as well as Long Hair and Double Dome. And as I said, I know a lot of people hate the show and a lot of people love it. A lot of the people that hate it, I'm not going to name any names again, or that podcast, but Whatever Happened to Robot Jones. I guess that title really is more of a question now, because whatever happened to Robot Jones? No one knows. And number 6, Hi Puffy AmiYumi. Now, after watching a review for this show, I can see that this show probably was just ad for the band, but fits right into my style of shows I like. And again, it's one of those shows that I love the intro for, and I do indeed love, I don't know, I like that it's just crazy. It doesn't seem to take itself too seriously, and I actually like the band manager too. Yeah, I thought he was a pretty cool character. I think that might be an unpopular opinion, I'm not sure. And the fact too that the main character is the people that are based off of AmiYumi, the creators of the original Teen Titans song. I think maybe that might have something to do with the fact that I like this show. And here's one, what is this, number 7? This one might be a little controversial maybe, because again, another YouTuber and a podcast that will remain unnamed does not like this show. They've mentioned their hatred for MacLeod. This is one of those shows that I remember getting up and watching in the mornings before I went off to school, and along with shows like Brandy and Mr. Whiskers on Disney, this isn't a top 10 Disney list, but I do remember watching MacLeod before I went to school in the morning, before I went to catch the bus. What I do remember about this show, I like the idea of a girl from New York coming and staying on an island of natives and trying to, it was a great show. And again, the intro was great. There was something about, late 90s, early 2000s shows intros that were just fantastic. Number 8 is Krypto the Superdog. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I don't think I watched every episode of this show. And again, I'm putting it on here mostly because of the intro. You know what? It's my list. While technically not being a Cartoon Network original, and it having aired on Kids WB first. I remember this show having been probably an early way for me to have gotten into superhero shows and movies, primarily Marvel, which is funny because it's a DC show, you know, with it being Krypto the Superdog and that actually being a dog in the superhero universe, I'm pretty sure. But this got me more into liking that type of stuff, the superhero movies and TV shows. Now, having rewatched an episode for this video for the purpose of adding this show to my list, the number 9 is Braceface. The show definitely, I don't think it holds up anymore. It's one of the shows that I remember as a kid because, again, I would have been around the same age, especially considering I'm 25, almost 26, and my life is pretty closely destined with Cartoon Network, considering I was born a few months before it was founded. I think I like this show more because it came out more around the time that I would have been the age of the main character, or at least closer to the age of the main character. So, and I never had braces, though I think I almost did. It was a fun show to watch and kept my attention as a kid, but I guess as a kid anything keeps your attention. What a cartoon. And while technically not a show, it is where a lot of the other Cartoon Network shows like Grim and Evil and Whatever Happened to Robot Jones, Dexter's Lab, and Powerpuff Girls all came from. You also got a lot of the people that worked on other Cartoon Network shows like the ones I listed just now, and Nickelodeon shows like Fairly Odd Parents with Butch Hartman and Family Guy like Seth MacFarlane. They all worked together on that, and that's kind of where they all came from. And if it wouldn't have been for What a Cartoon, I'm sure we probably would have still had some of the shows. I guess what I'm saying is What a Cartoon basically launched a lot of the careers of a lot of the showrunners, like I said, Seth MacFarlane, with Larry and Steve being the preface to Family Guy. That's my top 10 list of late 90s, early 2000s Cartoon Network shows. Love them or hate them. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Maybe leave a list of your own favorite Cartoon Network shows, or just any shows from any other network that you like. So if you like the video, make sure you like the video and subscribe to see more. And I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day. Peace out.
This Friday on CCF, we've got new hosts, Time Squad.
Where are we again? Ancient China or something?
This is not China. And we've got a brand new premiere, Kitty Bobo.
Call me anytime.
And in Time Squad, Sigmund Freud gets neurotic, and Leonardo da Vinci becomes a beatnik? Crazy, Daddy-O. So join Time Squad this Friday at 7:30 for Cartoon Friday, only on Cartoon Network.